There's a reason I'm going from fire to, or wands, to swords. Your swords is your air element. Air signs include Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. The reason that I'm going to swords next is also I need to encourage anybody trying to learn tarot to take a little bit of time to study a little bit of astrology, because it'll truly help you in interpreting these court cards as well. So as I said before, with wands, with king, queen, knight, and page, you have that age progression just the same like wands. Now, when you think about swords, you think about slicing, okay? You can see in all these cards the element of air, i.e. Knight of Swords being in the sky. You see all the clouds on all these cards pretty much. The air is associated with intellectual, mental. I have to say that again. Air is associated with intellectual, mental communication. So, when you think about these elements, you think about how these personalities would fit those elements. So, a king of swords, when I say mental, is actually cerebral, may live in his head a little bit. Great at communicating, probably not very much in touch with emotional, feely, mushy-gushy stuff. So if I get a king of swords and a woman's reading about love, I'm like, he's going to be kind of detached, and you may not feel like he, quote-unquote, loves you. But it could just be that it's because he's so intellectual, he may be a little awkward, when it comes to, mushy type things. So that's the king of swords. Now, again, I have to stress this especially for advanced readers or people that are trying to get more advanced. The tarot court cards are not always associated with the person's sign, okay? So I have to give this king of swords as an example. If the person's a lawyer and they work in a very intellectual field, lawyer, doctor, they will come up as a king of swords. They may not be an air sign, but if that's what they do for a living is deal with words and facts and that sort of thing, they may come up as the king of swords. So that's the thing to remember when you start dealing with court cards. So your king of swords, if not an air sign, is a lawyer, doctor, could be a writer, could be a professor, but if he's a professor, he would be teaching something very cerebral, like a math, something like that. King of Swords would not be your music teacher, is what I'm trying to say. He would be teaching something intellectual. Queen of Swords would be the same, a female attorney. It could also be a female writer, somebody that deals with facts, that sort of thing is the other thing to remember about a Queen of Swords. That could also be a nurse. A king or queen of swords can also be people who like speaking the truth, blunt. Since they're verbally astute, as I say, they can be very blunt in how they speak to people. So this could be a problem if you're dealing with, let's say, a Queen of Cups who's more emotional. If she's dealing with a King of Swords, he may be a little too cerebral or detached for her and hurt her feelings. Often, this is again why I stress to learn astrology, a little bit of astrology if you're going to do tarot. So that's what I'm seeing there. When I look at this King of Swords, is somebody very, to the point, to the chase. Now, the thing is, when you think about swords, you also think about ninja, fighting. So, king and queen, soldiers. The sword suit is what I use to represent military. Reason being is, again, you think about swords, you think about fighting. Military, hey, you have to be kind of to the point. There's no, it's black and white. There's no really gray zone. You just, do what you're told, soldier. That's what I got to do, be detached. So that's why the king and queen can represent soldiers. Knight is usually, since it's 15 to 25-year-old male, sometimes it could be somebody just entering the military. Now, we talked about these knights being messages. So aside from this being that young air sign guy or the young lawyer or the young soldier, this is also a message that comes very swiftly, because you look at what he's writing. Remember, Mr. Knight of Wands had that fire-spitting dragon that he was riding. Mr. Knight of Swords is on something just as fast. He's on this horse with these wings, and he's going through the air. So, with it being swords, it's also penetrating. So, you can imagine the Knight of Swords is a very fast-coming message as well. Quick movement. Page of Swords, just the same, since it's the child. If you're talking about a person, this can be somebody who's very intellectual and young, and so they can have a tendency to kind of say things bluntly, but they're also very smart. So that's the thing to remember about swords. So when you're speaking about messages, if somebody's asking about contact, if you get that Knight of Swords, it may be contact, but it may not be exactly what they want to hear, because remember, swords is very penetrating. So if you get that Knight or that Page of Swords on contact, you're like, yeah, but it's something that I don't, that's going to be very to the point. Now, that's okay if you're talking career stuff, but when you're talking love stuff and you get swords, you're kind of like, ooh, something a little detached with that contact. So that's the thing to remember. Now, let's talk about the reverse. Now, we talked about Mr. King of Wands reverse, flaming some stuff up, getting, wands being fired. They can have bad tempers. These swords people can have bad tempers. Now, they may not physically fight, but they'll cuss you out. You have to remember the element. Swords, intellectual. Words. They'll use their mind to destroy you, especially if they're reversed. So, King of Swords, as I said, being that lawyer, if it's a reverse King of Swords, it may be a lawyer that's a little crooked. Maybe that ex-husband that's ready to do some damage legally. Or that Queen of Swords can be that ex-girlfriend reverse. She's that bitch. She's ready to mess your world up, and she's going to use the internet or anything with communication to take you down. Now, you can imagine a king and queen vindictive, because sometimes somebody can be so detached. Normally, when I get these two reversed, a king or a queen, they're so detached emotionally. They're not thinking of how it's going to affect a person. They just want the job done. Just like when you think about military association with swords, they just want the job done. So you can imagine when you're reading love relationships and you get a king or queen reverse, you're like, that girl don't care about you no more. She does not care what happens to you. Same with that king. Especially when they're reversed, it's just done. And that's normally how, or, depending on the cards, or they're so mad, you probably don't want to talk to them right now because they're going to tongue lash you to where you're going to feel it. Now, my Knight of Swords reversed, since it is about messages or that young man, when it's reversed, that's just straight up tongue lashing. You got cursed out. So if somebody asks me, okay, I think my boyfriend's mad, I get a Knight of Swords reverse, and I say, yeah, he may just curse you out next time you talk to him. Or if I get it in the immediate past and spreads, then I'll say, hey, did y'all have a big argument? That's the Knight of Swords reverse for me. Not necessarily delivered in the kindest manner again because of that detachment. Same with the Page of Swords reverse. It's not as much of an argument for me as a knight, because you got to think about courts also in a little bit old terms. Knights were the fighters too. So aside from messages, you got to think about who the knights were in the court. They were the fighters as well, the knights. So reverse, it's a tongue lash. It's a fight, but using words since it's swords, intellectuals. So the Page of Swords is a message not delivered in the best of ways if it's reversed. So it still can be a little stinging there. So that's what you want to remember about swords. Now, what I wanted to address really quick is when you're talking about court cards and you're talking about relationship versus career readings, you still apply the same type thought. So, King of Wands reverse, though he may be, if the King of Wands reverse, if he's mad, in a relationship, he may go off and, have hot temper. He may be the same way in his work environment. Or you can get a person as a King of Wands reverse in their relationship and a King of Swords reverse when you ask about career. So, really, you still have to use some practical thoughts when you think about, if you're asking about love situation or work, you still apply the same principles there. So that's the thing to remember. So we're going to go ahead and move on to cups. Hope this is helping you guys.